Welcome, everybody. I'm Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. I believe it's episode 43. If you're watching on YouTube, tonight's a Pluto night. I'm with starself.com. The website is starself, like myself, yourself, starself.com. And the YouTube page is in my name, Rick DiClemente. Tonight, we're talking about Pluto because I've really dried up with all other subjects. I've been writing about it for at least 10 years, and it's the story. It's the story. Both the planet, the U.S., other countries, the shift. We got to talk a lot about it. Tonight we'll be spotlighting Richard Tarnas, the wonderful author of Cosmos and Psyche, Astrology's Bible, and his key words to the planet Pluto that he has gathered. I was mentioning before taping that Pluto was discovered in 1930, which meant that before 1930, it was there, but it was not there because it was not in our psyche, because we were not ready for it. A friend of mine told me, oh, that's silly. If 1929, if your telescope was powerful enough, you would have seen Pluto. You see it when you're ready to see it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then through the years, we found atomic weapons. We found the Holocaust. We found plutonium. We found nuclear weapons. We found a lot of Pluto things. So just like in the last several years, we found Eris. And Eris will give and reveal her nature to us in due time. So tonight I thought I would start out by examining a PowerPoint slide I put together by Richard Tarnas. If you've read Cosmos and Psyche, what it is he took 30 years to write this marvelous book that accounted for almost every major event in recorded history as far as Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn. Where were those planets during those events? And it's not possible to read that book and be a non-believer in astrology. He itemizes. It's so thick of a book, heavy duty, serious stuff. You probably don't want to read it, but you probably want to read it at the beginning of it and use the rest for references. Anyhow, in the beginning, he does a marvelous job talking about the planets. He doesn't talk much about the signs. That will be out in his next book. But as far as Pluto square Saturn, Pluto opposite Saturn, Uranus square Neptune, all those periods, great periods that we're going through, he itemizes it clearly. And the one we're going through now, without a doubt, is the Pluto Return in the United States chart. Pluto at 25 degrees of Capricorn, taking 256 years to go around. Pluto's back at 18, almost 20. So the two Plutos are 5 degrees apart. He uses a 15-degree orb. So we are in the midst of a Pluto return. What does that mean? You've all heard these people for years now that were very accurate. You might call it woo-woo. They called it the shift. Well, the shift is shifting. And the shift ain't always easy. And that's what we hope to talk about tonight. Get a little bit clearer. So I will go to the graphic I've got for him on his Pluto keywords. And I'll read them to you slowly because we need some time not to gloss over it intellectually. We need some time to feel these words. What do they mean? And as I go over them, think of yourself and your family and your community and your world and your government. Think of these things. What is Pluto? Pluto is the end of a cycle. Somebody in the zodiac has to do the dirty work. That's Pluto's job. It has to clean up the stuff. Sometimes your life gets to a point where it comes to an end and you've got to do cleanup and then hopefully rebirth. And the rebirth is directly related to how well you clean up. That's what we're talking about. The famous line of Pluto, death and rebirth. So let's take a look at Pluto's keywords through the eyes of Taurus. With your Taurus keywords, okay, there you go. Now let's take our time with this because he's a very economical writer. He picks the perfect word for the perfect situation. He's a genius writer. Pluto is associated with the principle of elemental power, depth, and intensity, and with that which compels, empowers, and intensifies whatever it touches. You can also be reminded here that Pluto is the ruler of the sign Scorpio. Pluto and Scorpio are similar. They're not the same, but they're very much alike. Sometimes to overwhelming and to catastrophic extremes, with the primordial instincts libidinal and aggressive, destructive and regenerative, volcanic and cathartic, eliminative, transformative, ever evolving, with the biological process of birth, sex, and death, the cycle of death and rebirth, with upheaval, breakdown, decay, and fertilization, violent purgatorial discharge of pent-up energies, purifying fire, situations of life and death extremes, power struggles, all that is titanic, potent, and massive. Pluto represents the underworld and the underground in all senses: elemental, geological, instinctual, political, social, sexual, taboos, urban, criminal, mythological, demonic. It is the dark, mysterious, taboo, and often terrifying reality that lurks beneath the surface of things, beneath the ego, societal conventions. I'm having a hard time with the screen here. And the veneer of civilization beneath the surface of the earth that is periodically unleashed with destructive and transformative force. Pluto impels, burns, consumes, transfigures, resurrects, and mythic and in religious terms, it is associated with all myths of descent and transformation, and with all deities of destruction and generation, death and rebirth, Dionysius, Hades, and Persephone, Pan, Medusa, Lilith, Inanna, Isis, and Osiris, the volcano, Pele, Quetzalcoatl, the serpent power, Kundalini, Shiva, Kali, and Shakti. I will post this on my Facebook page tomorrow in case you would like to get a copy. That was more than 10 mouthfuls. Think about the world. Think about the spills in the Gulf. Think about the Exxon spills. Think about the oil fighting in the Middle East. Think about when Pluto's on you, how it comes up, it emerges, it comes up. And the one thing I want you to learn in here, you cannot control the energies of these planets. You can't say, turn it down, turn it up, they're going to come. They are you. And in Pluto's case, it's different than other planets because this is how you tie in to the collective. So we were talking earlier about Holly, we're talking about the midheaven and the nadir. Pluto aspects are very hard to read. They're hard to translate because they're very impersonal. They're very powerful. Now, a lot of people get very scared. Pluto's sitting on my ascendant for years now. It just went over my sun. So I've been through years of it. I have respect for it, and I certainly was more scared of it when I was a young astrologer. But there are many ways you can deal with Pluto energy by understanding and knowing what to do. Mark, would you please post the, go to my website and under documents, it says other documents, other articles. There's one called Pluto. Matter of fact, I got it right here. Pluto will, let me get it for you. Yes, this is it. This is, I'm going to paste it for you. This is an article I wrote called Pluto Will Help You If You Say Yes. Hi, Kathy Pagano. Sneaking up on us here. Okay. Okay, so there is the name of the article, the link to that article in case you'd like to look it up on my website. It explains to you how you deal with Pluto and get it to be on your side. Okay? Now, when Pluto comes into your life, usually what happens is you get a sense things aren't working and I need dramatic changes. Yes, we are recorded. Almost everybody I know goes through 4 stages of Pluto, including the country. The country is stuck between stage 1 and 2. I also have another article out there called The 4 Stages of Pluto and How to Know Which Stage You're in. Stage 1 is denial. Oh, I don't need to fix anything. I hear loud termites in the basement, but it's probably not termites. Denial. Oh, we got a mess with our rights, with people fighting each other, and a pending civil war in the country, but it's really nothing, so I'll suppress it. That's stage 1, denial. And it's not advised that you stay in stage 1. Stage 2, the tough stage. Stage 2 is you know things are heavy duty and you got to deal with it. And I've told you many times, almost everybody I know in stage 2, it's cleaning out the basement. I know it sucks. I got to deal with it. We just got a home. We had to go down in the basement and dig out all kind of old stuff to put in new stuff, and it's just got to be done. Well, anything that's alive runs to that cycle, runs to that stage, including the United States government, including the planet is at that stage. So stage 2 is tough because it's hard work, it's dirty, it's loud, it's black, you don't see much light. Stage 3 comes about if you get past stage 2, where you keep doing the cleanup. In stage 3, you start to see light at the end of the tunnel, and you know that your work is not in vain. you're starting to see light because of your cleanup efforts. What do you do when Pluto's around? You try to own your courage. You try to face things. You don't have to conquer everything. You don't have to change everything. You don't have to fix everything. But what you don't do is run and hide because it's inside you. You can't hide anywhere. You've all been there. You've all had dark nights of the soul. That's Pluto. So you get with it. You start to work with it. If you have to say, God, take this from me. I can't deal with it. I don't understand. You give it up, but I'm working with you. Perfect. It works. It helps. Things come your way. As you get through stage 3, you start to get more powerful. It's very common during stage 2 and 3 that you give up a lot of bad relationships. They're the number one thing that has to go. Relationships that you keep around where you're being abused. You're not being appreciated. People are sucking your energy or even getting off on you being weak. That has to end. That's the number one thing you do during a Pluto time, is getting out of relationships that are codependent or where people are sucking from you. What I call a 59-minute relationship. You're on the phone listening about their problems for 59 minutes. In the last minute, oh, Rick, and how are you? That has to end. Keep the great ones, but if you're being used, like the Course in Miracles says, problems come to you because you feel you deserve them. If you don't feel you deserve them, they wouldn't come. Stage 4 comes where you're through most of it, you're up and you're powerful, the ashes are behind you, you've come into your own power, and you're largely riding that horse by yourself, even a little bit cocky, a little bit strong, but you've been through the transition. I once did a workshop, it was amazing, at the Mesa years ago. And in the middle of talking with everybody about Pluto, as it was just starting then, Pluto really started up in 2008. I turned to everybody sitting there and I said, how many of you people have issues in your life that are dead or dying, but you won't let them die? And everybody went, oh boy. And I passed out all these sticky tablets. And very spontaneously, people took their time and started to write on the sticky tablet, my relationship, put it on the wall. My job, put it on the wall. Before you knew it, I had sticky papers all over the wall. We're talking, people realizing. That's what happens with Pluto. Pluto is the tough, strong energy that face the facts, you're done with this, let's move on. And other planets, especially the moon, oh, let's keep it alive forever, and oh, we've known the family so long, and oh, the habits, and oh, the tradition. No, Pluto won't listen to it. It's that part of you that wants to get moving and get out of the past. So through the evening, I noticed as we talked at this workshop, people kept getting up and taking those notes down. You could tell that by writing down their issue, putting it on the wall, gave them a little objectivity. And they said, well, I got to deal with that. Well, I got to deal with that. And, you know, I can't stress enough how important it is to write stuff down. Because if you don't, it just goes round and round and down to the heart and back to the head and round and round. And it keeps you entrapped. And by writing things down, people saw issues, and I'm sure you all know what I mean, and you know people in your family, things that don't work need to go. And to put it clear with Pluto, things that keep you from evolving. Now, it's amazing to watch clients where their job is keeping them from evolving. That's how they see it. But it's amazing how many times when the person becomes ready to let go of the job not only goes, the job lets go of them, but the new one comes. But we're not trained with Pluto in this country. We're trained to hold on and plan everything. If you have a question, put your hand up. Okay. But the real key with it is letting go and moving on. Now, what we're seeing in the country now is you're seeing, no surprise, you're seeing issues with food, with healthcare, with jobs, with, you name the topic. You name the topic. The military, chemicals, climate, everything's at this degree now. Everything has come to its end. We can't push it anymore unless we start to fix it. You see it in every broadcast. You look at your leaders and you say, oh my God, this is my Congress. They're going to help me. They're getting nothing done. Let alone the fact that Neptune is squaring the ascendant on the United States chart, and we're lost in this dreamland clown show that we're in. We're all looking around like, what the hell's going on? So you have to stop and see that the United States is coming full circle. It doesn't mean we have to die. It doesn't mean we're going to be reborn. Nothing's written. But you can see that we can't rest on our laurels. The other day, they broadcast words right out of the Constitution. People screamed at them thinking that they were unconstitutional. It was right out of the Constitution. So what this means is this is time to go back to the table to decide what we are. It's an identity crisis, what we really stand for. Do we really have a Statue of Liberty with a hand up in the air? Is it halfway down? Is it bent over? Is it leaning towards France but away from the Middle East? Bring us your tired and helpless from Ireland but not from Syria? Is it okay to punish people? Is it okay to torture people if we call it enhanced interrogation technique? Who are we? Where do we stand? We're all sitting in the middle of all this chaos. So instead of complaining about this, one can turn to Charles Eisenstein. He's a great leader, as is Richard Tarnas. We need these strong leaders now. Eisenstein happened to be in Pittsburgh. We met him. He's a fine astrologer, by the way. He's a social philosopher. He was just on Sunday morning with Oprah with his new book that he's working on. And he's talking about what I gathered from the two of them in the past weekend, listening to the two of them, is we have to come up with individual efforts, and we cannot solve this alone. We got to work in groups. Charles called it heroic groups. Whether it's Pat up in New England with artistic groups, whether it's Kathy in New England also with all her feminine rising groups, whether it's Suzanne here in Pittsburgh and the myriad of things she's doing, whatever it is. I'm just here to try to navigate and continue to give you an astrological perspective on what's happening. This is very real, and I think we're overwhelmed by this constant media barrage of all the negative. There are so many people here that can help in so many ways. 2 hours ago, I had my dog just about getting killed at a kill shelter. 1 hour later, I had somebody that's going to take him for a permanent home. So we got the power of the internet. That was done on Facebook. We have wonderful people to call upon. One of the things I really think that we need to stress is stop listening to everybody. Stop listening to almost everybody you know. Stop listening to almost everybody you know, because they don't know. A few people you know, they do. You know if it's ringing true. If it's ringing true, you know the answers. They're not complicated. Love each other, do it together, work together. I don't have to harp on this. So let's cut to Eisenstein. I don't know how you can get back to his video. It was last Sunday. If you can find it on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah, it was wonderful. Yes, Suzanne, hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
Video on his website that describes this book.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Oh, okay. He has a website, and he has a video on his website that diagrams his book and what his philosophy is.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Charles Eisenstein. He's all over YouTube. Young guy, absolutely brilliant. Let's look at some of the words that I stole from him. Yes, Maren, go ahead.
Well, you said that he thinks that you have to work to solve problems in some kind of group. What kind of group was that?
What he was calling, what I'm trying to say to you is I've been reading him for years, and he's been trying to wake up the individual, especially through a gift economy instead of a capitalistic one. And what I've discerned from listening to him lately, he's working with what he sees as heroic groups. What Liza told me several years ago would be grassroots campaigns. So whether it's Rick with this show, or you with your show, or you with what you're doing, we all need each other doing all these things. Does that make sense? All the wonderful things Kathy Pagano is doing. Let's cut to this, and you'll get just a glimpse of where he's coming from. Another tremendous writer. Okay, let's get rid of this. Let's see here. I'm learning to work all these things here. Okay, let's see from the beginning. Okay. Charles Eisenstein. Okay, this is what he had to say. This is a paraphrase of his last visit. If I am right that my Oprah appearance is a marker, however small, of the unraveling of once dominant worldviews, then it only happened because the emergent worldview I speak for is being held so strongly now by so many. Take it then as an encouraging sign, whether or not it proves to be a breakthrough moment for the concepts of empathy and interbeing we discussed. It suggests that we are coming closer toward a consensus reality. We will not be alone here much longer. I thank all who have held the field of knowledge that I speak from, for believe my words. If I can get this to move, even more than I do myself, and who therefore uphold me in the work that upholds you. That is how that we transition from the age of separation into the age of we need each other. So there's not much to say. He's absolutely brilliant. He's got radical, phenomenal ideas about the economy and ways of exchange beside money. It's going to take a long time to get there, but what he's saying is, look, back in the 60s, you had a couple head shops. I'm sure Patricia can remember these, and Kathy and many of you. You went into a little bookstore and had little books by Uspensky, and little books by Gurdjieff, and little books by Yogananda, and it was kind of neat. And you had little clubs once or twice in the country. and it spread, and it spread, and it spread, and it spread, and it spread. And then the yoga's on commercials now. And then people started doing meditation, and it's spreading into the hospitals. We just have to keep at it. And Eisenstein and Tarnas are two of the great resources because they talk about what we can do. And one of the great pains of doing this show is hearing so many people that feel helpless, or they feel, what can I do? Well, I don't know. I mean, I picked up this software called Zoom, and I thought a few people might like to hear about astrology, and I'm doing what I can. So I think it's time now to turn it over to all of us to talk about what we have to do to act as a group, what we have to do to encourage those around us. There can't be any more thems. We can't get into this, I'm right and Trump is wrong. This just can't go on anymore. This whole theme of we got to go bomb the bad guys doesn't work, can't work. It has to come to an end now. So I open it up to you. I'm going to change this here. And now you'll be able to unmute yourself and comment if you wish. Please do. Kathy, start us off.
Okay. Hey, how you doing?
I'm going to put you on the spot, girl.
Okay.
I'm doing really good, and I'm anxious to hear what you have to say. Glad to have you back with us.
Thank you. I needed to drop in for a visit. I just came back from a visit to a friend. The thing is that the biggest thing I think we all can do is break out of the habits and the paradigms of patriarchy of our civilization in terms of what we can do. I mean, I do it myself. We all do it, like, oh, I need to write my book and sell it and become a teacher on the internet. And we put it into a framework that's so freaking patriarchal. And so I feel like this month, especially with the eclipse coming, it's going to be on my Saturn, it's about, and so maybe I'm speaking off of my thing, you know, but can we come up with ideas that aren't pressed into the same old way of doing things, right?
Yeah, one thing I want to add to that, and I think that's really excellent. One thing I really want to add, and I feel strong, tremendous noise from somewhere. Anyhow, I stopped it. One thing I want to add, we'll get back to Kathy. I think we really need to take a bare bone, honest look at trying to save the world. Everybody I'm talking to wants to go help people do that. Help people do that. What I'm saying is, and all the books tell us, what I think we need to really do is work on ourselves. Make ourselves better. Make ourselves happier. Make ourselves be happy. People will be happy to be around us. Let's concentrate on that a little bit more. Back to you, Kathy.
Totally. Yes. Because if we are still stuck in these old mindsets, how are we going to really save the world?
Well, tell us about, instead of calling it patriarchal, what do you mean stuck in what mindset? What
mindset of, well, I call it patriarchal because it is, but anyway, it's the whole thing. I think a big thing in America is our work ethic is so totally screwed up. Okay, we have, even if we weren't told it, we have that Protestant work ethic vibrating within us. If you have money, God loves you. If you don't, you're a loser. Okay, I have dealt with this all my life. I raised 4 kids on my own. Instead of going to work and having them kill each other and be really screwed up and needing to go to therapy, I only worked a little, and we didn't have a lot of money. And that was just the way it was. And they turned out to be really wonderful adults. I did a great job. They like me. They don't have a negative mother complex. It's like, yes, okay. So, and they're all off in the world doing very well. Part of it is, how can we get out of these mindsets of what makes a good life? And I call it patriarchal because we're at the bottom of the barrel of patriarchy. And so we are coming up against it and saying, what about a good life being that I don't make a lot of money, that I live in a tiny house, that I go to my town council meeting and speak up, or I do whatever I want to do? Or what about if when I teach, I do it and I say, you know what, I'm not going to teach alone. I'm going to gather my friends and we're all going to teach a class together. And maybe we won't make a lot of money, but we'll all make a little. I did that out in Las Vegas because one of the things I heard on NPR out there was the myths of the desert are all about working together because we have limited resources. So in the desert, you work together. So when I was there and I started teaching, I could have done all of it. I could have studied. I'm smart, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to listen to that myth. And so I took my friends and I said, you teach this part of it. You teach that part of it. You know, and that's so different from the New England, I am an individual and I will take care of everything all on my own. So it's about how do we get into group consciousness without feeling like it lessens us. Right? Things like that. So, you know, there's a lot of different things. Different ways we can do it. Let's be wild and crazy. Like I'm working with this group of older women. Older, I'm just as old, but I don't feel old, and they think I'm kind of weird. And we're doing a satire. They took a class and on short movies, and they're doing a movie, and they're doing a satire of Trump and his people and Alice in Wonderland. And they can't find an Alice. We have all of these interesting men that one came from Ohio. He was the head of the theater department at a college, and he's retired, and he came to interview with us. But no women, one young woman, and she wasn't strong enough. And I'm driving home tonight because somebody wrote me and said, you have to find us an Alice. And I thought, why not make her old? Why does she have to be young? Do you know what I mean?
How about the new Doctor Who is a female?
Yes, the 13th Doctor Who, of course, because it's the goddess number.
Yeah. Perfect time. Elke has something to say here. Go ahead, Elke.
That's the premise. I don't know if you've heard of it, but that's why they formed Astrology Hub.
Yes.
Because a lot of the astrologers are now coming together, and we're actually in the process of forming subgroups.
Yes.
You know, and the medical astrology is going to be, you know, eventually we're working on that and all coming together and then just coming right out. And because nobody can do one thing at all by themselves.
Right.
But together we can just pick and we can delegate, and some people are better at something than others. And, you know, Astrology Hub is just it's a group. You can just Google it, Astrology Hub. It's a whole bunch of astrologers coming together.
HUB.
Yeah.
HUB Hub. Yeah.
It's really good. Great astrologers. Every month they have people. Some are okay. The thing I've decided is that being an older person, I love the young people. They have a lot of young astrologers. They have a lot of excitement, but they don't quite have all the academic background, you know, and they just go off. And it's like, and one guy, the Leo, the astrology kid, right? He said something about Barbara Marciniak's book, The Bringers of the Dawn. I know Barbara. She hates that book. But she hates that young people think it's a Bible. It's such a beginning. I have known this lady, and one of my friends has done it for 25 years. It's a little crazy. That's okay. But when I first met her, it was like Psychology 101. I had just come back from the Young Institute, and I got a little haughty. I love Barbara, but these kids, it's like they discovered, you know, the Holy Grail. But it's yeah.
Like, I have her books too, and I know what you're talking about. But yeah, there's a lack of maturity there, definitely. But they're appealing to the younger people, and they're bringing that energy of astrology into the forefront. Although, you know, that they'll realize that there's got to be some more depth, you know, associated with. But a lot of them are more intuitive though too. They're a different generation. The intuition comes much quicker and faster, so they can go fly with that energy that Barbara's probably been, you know, really, really, you know, marinating for a long time on. But you know, it's different times. But the Astrology Hub is really good. Is a really good platform.
It's a wonderful platform. Rick, you should join it. It's excellent. I'm glad to know you're there. I'll look for you.
Well, no, I'm not on it yet, but you know, I've taken a hiatus.
Suzanne's up next.
Hi, Rick. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it looks like there's two things that is a challenge the author of Sacred Economics has. We are such an individualistic country. So the idea for some people to gravitate toward groups might be a challenge. And I like what that other woman said about recreating or missed. If you have gone through a Pluto experience, it's an opportunity that you can recreate yourself. And so we all have opportunities to recreate myths that no longer work either personally or collectively.
I think that's a great statement and a great idea, Suzanne. Why don't we take a second, and we don't want to be glib over this stuff. Let's start with Erica. Erica, have you been through a Pluto period? What was it like before, during, and after for you?
My life was just not what it was before that. It was just completely changed. Everything that was true before was no longer true. And it was very difficult because I just felt very lost. I didn't know why things had gone wrong the way they had. I felt responsible as though I had done something wrong.
Well, what did you find out later on?
That it was a cycle of life. Mm-hmm. That life is life, and life.
It wasn't you at all. Its day had come. How about Barbara? Barbara, you have any thoughts on this? Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 2 years ago, and your world it goes upside down, and you. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
What happened with Libras? I wanted to interject here. What happens with Libra in specific is Libras are thought people, they're idea people, they're talkers, they're socializers. But since Libra is here and Pluto and Capricorn is here, Libras have been hit from the fourth house, which means Libras have had to deal with their emotional state. And Libra's not primarily an emotional sign. So Libras have had to go beyond their bailiwick, beyond their norm of intellectual discussion, and have had to reach deeper for emotional sustenance. And I think that's what's happened with them. And Libras are so victorious, they're just unbelievable. They just take the job at hand and they dive in. They're really pretty amazing people. They're very underrated. So can you identify with that, where you had to go out of your head and into your heart in the last couple of years?
Yeah, everything shattered. And there was no putting back together the old.
What shattered?
My life, my dream, what I thought when my husband passed away, everything I planned for the past 40 years was gone, finished.
Well, I'm very sorry about your husband. I understand that, but what I'm trying to say, with a typical Libra transition, what happened is the mental world, Libras live for what? The mental world of I fit in with the society. I'm societally accepted. I'm a societal okay. But what you start to identify and realize your identity is beyond your social fit, and it gets down to who you really are in here. That's a quite huge change. And I would think that with your husband's passing, it would be hard to see that until some time has passed.
Yeah, it is hard. It's you are not who you thought you were because you constructed everything in a certain way, and now it's completely different. Now I got to figure it out, and it's a solo trip, and but you know it's okay. You just do it.
You deserve a lot of applause. I tell you that. I think so. What
It's
do you,
hard.
what do you think, Karen? Thank you, Barbara. Karen, what do you think? You've been through enough Pluto times all around.
Me?
Yes, dear.
Now you have to understand, I'm kind of more used to Pluto energy since being a Scorpio.
Right.
When Pluto was approaching my descendant, my marriage broke up, and I had to, I went back to work, and I ended up moving, and my whole life kind of turned on its end. My son was sick. It was, so there was lots of upheaval going on, and there was my dad died. There was just a lot of letting go, and moving forward. And I think I managed it. I managed it pretty well, not without stress, but I managed it pretty well because I think I kind of grew up with that as familiar energy. And
well, may I ask you, what did you let go of successfully that while you were letting go, you thought you would miss it?
My intact family.
Okay.
Well,
what Pluto says was the family wasn't as real or as close as one might think.
Correct. My family of origin. I lost my family of origin during that time because they they turned their back on me at that point for about 10 years. So I think my way of life. I was a stay-at-home mom. I loved being a stay-at-home mom and raising my kids, and I had to start a career. So I left behind lots of my whole way of life, my whole frame of reference about my life. But being a wife and a daughter, and like it all changed.
What did you do in retrospect that you can say, these are the reasons I succeeded because I did what?
I kept my eye on, not completely, because I kept my kids under, but I kept my focus on myself and where I needed to be, and my own growth. That's my own growth, my own well-being, my own set of needs, and the people that didn't support that, I let go by the wayside.
There you go. Very good. Anybody else that has their story? I have one, but that goes on forever. Let's hear from Elke. She has an idea here. What's your story?
Well, it's the same thing. Mine has just been going for a long time, where I also had to let go of my family of origin. Same thing, because in fact, mine was, I moved across the ocean. I left my home country behind and came to Canada by myself from Germany because my family's just, been kind of nightmare.
And then you lost your partner.
And sorry.
And then you lost your partner.
Yeah, and now my husband passed away, and with his passing, I also lost his family, and so I'm untethered, I call it right now. And
you're making it through.
Yeah, but I'm just coming up on my Pluto Sun opposition, and I'm like, whoa.
When Pluto hits you, your power arrives.
Yeah. Okay. Is everything?
The intensity and the power all comes at the same time. It all comes at the same time.
It's really weird because everything that's going on right now is like therapy and digging up the old crap, and no, but not in a way of rehashing it, but in a way of leaving
Yeah.
it behind and leaving it there and being good with it, you
Yeah,
know?
but you look really, really good. You look like you're shining forth. That's excellent.
I'm
You really,
okay.
you
I'm
really do.
okay.
Let's hear from Susan Ferguson. What's going on with you? I know you've been through a fire, and boy, ain't that Pluto. You've been through a fire and it didn't burn you. What's going on with you in terms of finding and allowing yourself to find your power?
Okay, well, you know how long I've wanted to get out of the business I've been in. I just got a job being a teacher's aide with special needs kids. So I'm going to be starting that at the end of August, and I've been taking some classes. So that's the big thing that's happened to me the past 3 weeks.
Now that's wonderful, and I want to point out to people, I'm so happy for you. How do I put this? Here's the day that you found out about this job, okay? What happened the day before?
Who knows? I was probably depressed about something because I've been pretty depressed.
What I'm saying to you is you let go of something. That's what opened up the new job.
Okay.
Kathy Pagano, I'm sure you got a million ways to put it. What's on your mind?
Well, it happened so long ago. But when I had my big Pluto thing, it was, where are you? I've lost the big part. Hold it. Okay. What happened was that I realized when I got divorced and I had 4 young children, and I realized that I had been at the Young Institute, so I was already trying to get my act together. I realized that if I was going to be a mother, I better get my act together and be a good mother.
Okay, now everybody's saying all these stories now. Let's take a moment here before I get to Ray, okay? I can see so many people in this world now. How do I put it? They're going to get excited when we go by because they're going to sense that we have something. People know they're missing something. People know their definition of what's wrong right now isn't really getting it. There's no Nazi Germany to go bomb and fix everything. They're going to get excited by us and our excitement. There's a lot of excitement in the room tonight. What do you have to say in the next 5 minutes? What do you have to say to your friends who are struggling? What do you have to advise them? Because they're all part of this collective Pluto return in the country.
I'm going to start. I was just with some friends, and what I did was I told them some stories I had been reading. And all of these great fantasy books I found lately are all about people who have been beaten up, whipped, thrown in salt mines, the worst things that could happen, and yet they come together and they fight evil. And they band together, and you would think that people, and it is fantasy, but I read that because it's myths. And I excited the ladies so much that they wrote down the books. We need better stories. The reason I'm excited is I lived through story, and we have bad stories out there, I think. I think our psyches are polluted with negative stories. So bringing up positive stories, but not just, I overcame struggles. My personal story, I think we need big archetypal stories to enliven us again, because people are leaving their churches and their synagogues, especially the young kids. We need an overriding story. And I think that's why things like Avatar did so well and Lord of the Rings. We need to invoke that magical storytelling ability that sets our hearts on fire and says, let's go and do something.
Very, very good. Other ideas?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
My mantra lately has been to release, to purge physically of things that I have held on to for years and years, and I couldn't get to a better place because I had too much baggage.
A couple examples, please.
I have 7 set of dishes, and I live alone. So I have begun to give them.
You're expecting 49 people.
I know. Come to my house. That was our plan. Retirement was going to be just a series of play dates, and that is not going to happen. So I had to come to terms with that. And anyway, that's just one example. So I'm spreading my joy to everybody else now. So
Thank you very much. Let's take a moment with Patricia Sharp.
Oh, finally.
I'm sorry, dear. I just saw you.
Back in July 21st, 2009, there was an eclipse on my Pluto at 29 Cancer. It changed my life completely.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And since then, I've been through a long cycle of gaining Pluto power, realizing my spirituality, really being very cognizant of the spirit world connection with our world and back and forth. And I've been very grateful. And all of a sudden, well, now the sun is on that Pluto today, and there's something else there as well. Plus, they're both squared to Uranus on my Saturn and opposed my Capricorn Pluto. Mars. Anyway, yeah, I guess Mars and the sun have been on the Pluto. All of a sudden, I've just today got totally fed up, absolutely and totally fed up. And I'm not feeling grateful anymore, and I don't want to help anybody anymore, and I'm sick to death of it. So this is the mood I've been in all day.
Yeah, but that can be really, really good. There are definitely different kinds of fed up. Explain that feeling.
Well, I didn't finish. The mail came. I had the doctor's appointment. I grabbed the mail and went on. Tom Jacobs in Tucson, Arizona, the astrologer, do you know him? He channels Merlin, Jehudi, Saint Germain, Thoth. He sent me a bag of black opals for emotional stability that came today. I've never met this man. He's out in Arizona. I'm up here in Maine. This is the second gift at the behest of Saint Germain. I was sent a pink opal about a year ago. Same way. What do you think of that? I mean, now...
I think that was just flat out coincidence.
Would you? Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding you. I think that's a wonderful sign.
Do you know what I wanted to say is that when I tell people, like, so many people are not being real with themselves, and becoming real with yourself, and really not being afraid of digging down deep rather than playing roles. I'm the wife, I'm the this, I'm the that, I'm the that. Have all these facades in front of us. It's time now to become real, to figure out who you really are, what you want to do, what's in your heart, what you absolutely love to do, irregardless of the consequences. I mean, I'm not saying, do bad stuff, but don't be afraid to dig deep.
You look like a totally different woman tonight. You look so alive. It's just wonderful. Wonderful.
Oh.
Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. We got time for one more. Suzanne, please go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to tell my story for Pluto. I mean, I was born with Pluto, and I know Pluto very well, and I'm writing a book one day about it. But we do not understand who we are. We are who we think we are based on our defenses.
Yeah.
And so Pluto tears that down. And I agree with Elke about becoming our authentic selves is very important. But we are so much more than what we realize.
Very good. Very well put. Very well put.
The lead into my this whatever is that I am pretty fully disabled. I have care workers 4 days a week. I had a great care worker for 6 months. She left last week. Now I'm training a new one. Everything's getting chaotic again. Nothing's getting done. I'm realizing I'm not painting or anything because I'm not getting the backup. I'm doing training. And I just went whoosh in a very Plutonian manner today. So I'll recover it. But that's the story.
Everybody, thank you so much for all of this crammed Pluto that we could give you. To you listeners that we're about to conclude on YouTube, good luck to you. If there are any questions, come back to these videos. We have a lot of talks on Pluto. The best thing you can do if you're having difficulty is find your courage, because it's there. You don't have to solve everything overnight. Take a step at a time. Do exactly what Elke was saying. Be yourself. And let me see. We're getting a noise from somewhere. There we go. Okay. And good luck to you. And as you do, continue to find your courage. Pluto will step in and help you. Thank you and goodbye to all the YouTubers.